It's September, so you know what that means. It's cold season. You guys ever get that cough this time of year? It's like that the beginning of the pig, that type of cough. So Dave had allergies. It's like what up, what up? Just playing, guys, just playing. But seriously, you guys know that cough. It's coming. And I hope you guys are doing well. This is the Gorge Night Zero stream. And welcome to the show. We'll let everyone trickle in. Looks like we got 7 people in. We have Stupid Almanac who's chatting in. So for those you don't know, Stupid Almanac on Instagram and Twitter, he is doing some DMB odds, right? So he has some odds about are they going to play Dreaming Tree? How many songs are they going to play the whole weekend? If you go on his Twitter page, let's bring that up real quick. And thank you guys again for joining. And very shortly, we're going to have our special guest from the DMBAlmanac on. But I want to welcome everyone, let everyone trickle in. Let's look at Stupid Almanac's DMB lines. And he actually has some, let's see if I'm trying to find your Twitter page here. There, I think you were commenting on stuff, so we find it this way. But yeah, so there's a lot of people are hoping for a lot of different things. What I will say though is you can never guarantee certain songs are going to be played at the Gorge. For those of you guys who haven't been or don't look at the stats, I brought up a point. Joyride was played 7 times in 2019, my first Gorge run, and it was not played that year at the Gorge. You've had years where the Stone was not played, like 2019 as well, but it was played before and after. So if you're at the Gorge, you go there and you get a lot of music. Don't expect everything. For those of you guys who are new to the Gorge, I can't find where is your. Anyway, we may have to look that up later. But I can't spell. But thank you guys again for joining. This is the Gorge Night Zero stream. And here it is. Stupid Almanac does some set listing for the Slightly Stupid. So here we go, guys. This was just made by Stupid Almanac earlier today. All right, so we have Dreaming Tree. All right, you got 110 minus 110, Shotgun plus 250, both being played plus 300, and this is based on $100 bets only. There also was a poll by our boy Don Dingo, and he has a poll that you guys can check out with the same type of, this started the whole discussion, if I can find it here. He was asking us what do you think is going to happen here for this Dreaming Tree and Shotgun. So right now, 60% of people said both will be played, 20% say Shotgun only, and 20% say Dreaming Tree only. So you think both will be played, Shotgun or Dreaming Tree? I picked Dreaming Tree. Listen, I went to 8 shows and did not get Shotgun, but I got Dreaming Tree. Shotgun is completely random. It's how they feel. They axed it out of Georgia for the Atlanta show, and I feel like Shotgun is less likely. Where Dreaming Tree, they just been playing it when it's been on there. They play it. Shotgun's a song that also started off a little bit rougher. Typically, Dreaming Tree is a song that they have the rough cuts of, or they struggle sometimes with the first or second play of a year. But Shotgun, initially there was just the first one was a little bit rough. I'll take it rough, but it just, that's the song that's more of the wild card there. So I just think that we probably won't get it, but we'll find out if it'll be played at the Gorge. All right, so without further ado, I wanted to have a discussion today with somebody I met at Deer Creek, and he is one of the members of the DMBAlmanac. Guys, I would not be here saying what I say, knowing what I know, if there was not a DMBAlmanac. I know Ants Marching has its data too, but I love how the Almanac compiles this data, presents it to us, and gives us periodic research that they put on the page. And it's just a great resource and a great tool. Let's actually bring that back up here so you guys can see the DMBAlmanac. Many of you guys know this site very well. And what I want to do is I'm going to bring on the special guest from the DMBAlmanac, Henry Hart. Henry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How about you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing okay. This is my first year that I won't be at the Gorge since 2018. Obviously, the pandemic shut everyone down, so I didn't have FOMO because no one was there. But I'm seeing these pictures, everyone there, and I'm happy for them. But I'm kind of sad I'm not out there.
Yeah, I know the feeling. It's a great venue. I haven't been there in a really long time. I only went once. But we all know what kind of set lists come out of that place. It's a great venue, great place to see a show, great part of the country. Love it.
Yeah, my thing with the Gorge is, just as I was talking, you get a lot of songs that elude the Gorge. No JTR since 06. And a lot of songs that may have been deep cuts all first half of the tour. Sometimes they go missing, but the environment mentally of being on that hill or being in the tight seats or being in the pit, it's unlike anything else. Like you said, that part of the country, there is a mindset that I'm in, even Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that is unlike any sort of anticipation for a show.
Yeah, totally agree. I've seen the band in 53 or 54 venues.
Wow.
Many of those venues don't exist anymore. And they all have their own, vibe way about them. Everything from the old Veteran Stadium to Daly's place here in Jacksonville. Like just two completely different parts of the country, two different kinds of venues. Old school concrete jungle football stadium compared to like a small amphitheater attached to a football stadium down in Jacksonville. And there's nothing really like the Gorge.
Yes.
And you're standing on that hill and you see the river and the hills and everything behind it. It's pretty amazing.
Yes, Mr. Khan's project off to the side of the football stadium, and then the great old Philly Veteran Stadium that took over after JFK Stadium was just not safe to be in. So, and that's where I saw my first baseball game at the Vet in 04, 03. No, because it was the last year of the Vet, which was 03. Citizens Bank was 04. Yeah. So anyway, I digress. We want to talk about the DMBAlmanac. So if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became associated with the Almanac crew.
Actually, I'm going to hand it back to you for a couple minutes. I'm going to hop out for just a second. I need to put in some earbuds. There's a lot of echo, so let me do that real quick. I'll be right back, guys.
All right. So we'll get with him in just a moment. And I have a lot of your questions here that you guys put on Instagram, some of them on Twitter. We're going to get to them. Let me know. Can you guys hear everything okay there? You know what I think the echo was too? I just muted. I just muted the my computer volume. Sometimes that happens with the computer volume when I put my little sound effects when a guest comes on. But and maybe one day, Stupid Almanac, maybe one day your odds will be in Vegas, because people would make a lot of money if they had gambling for set lists for DMB. I think you would get some good money in, because people, we all want to be right, we all want to pick the opener, but if you win money and you get to pick an opener, that would be very cool. So hey, Stupid Almanac, you should call up Vegas for real. You should call up Vegas. Maybe they get with the almanac and they can start making some odds for DMB gambling. Because gambling is going to be, it's legal now in a lot of states, and it continues, the pendulum continues to push. Connor says, I've been saying they should have done set lists for years for gambling. Yeah. I mean, I don't personally gamble. I mean, I've played a couple of slots, but not, I'm not a huge fan of it. I'd rather pay for concert tickets that are expensive than to lose $200 through like slot machines. So yeah, it'd be really cool. And I hope you guys join us for this entire weekend. I'll be on 10:45 p.m. Pacific time, approximately, after each show. All right.
We're gonna go old school headphones.
Okay. I also muted my computer volume because sometimes my system volume messes up. All right. So yeah, before we left off, just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you joined the Almanac crew.
Yeah, so a little bit of my day background. My first show was August 30th, 96 at Walnut Creek in Raleigh. So I got a full Dave Solo Little thing in the encore of my first show,
Wow.
which happens when you're at a show in 96. Saw maybe, I don't know, saw a show in 96. I saw my second show was 2 days after. I think Copper Pot put a link to the audio from Darius Rucker doing Granny in the encore. That was my second show 2 days later.
Wow.
Third show was a Dave and Tim show in 97 where they did Cryptor Kid. Fourth show was the last full band Let You Down, June 20th, 97. So that was kind of like my era when I started back then. And Traded Tapes did that whole thing. Back before we had file servers and BitTorrents and all that stuff, it was cassette tapes. And, just got hooked. A long story of how I really got into the band, I won't really get into, but ended up taping shows starting in 2000. So the first show I taped was in Cincinnati, June 26, 2000. It's my 20th birthday. Met people like Craig Willoughby at that show, another taper whose name's been out there for a long time, and a lot of other people that day that kind of started that whole following the band around, taping a lot of shows, doing the thing that a lot of us do now. And after a couple of years of that, it was my senior year of college. I sold my gear because I needed money. And Rob Boken had created a thing called the DMBAlmanac in April of 2002 in conjunction with a Just DMB thing that a guy named Nate Tilton was a part of just before that. And I'd known Rob for a while. We'd become friends, told him I was really into all of that, like all of that detail of the shows and more than just like, what's the set list? Like, I want to know more than that. Like, that's just the band gives us the set list. We don't need a website that just does set lists. That's a waste of time, in my opinion. So I want more than that. So Rob had done this thing where there was a whole lot more than that, which wasn't as much as what we have now. And I said, I want to help with it. So, and I had access to all the shows, I was downloading all the stuff. I had books and books of CDs. And so I started listening to shows and entering song times. And so when the Almanac got created in 2002, most of the set list got dropped in pretty quickly, but the data was all blank. So all the song times had to be done, all of the personnel, all of the notes, any of the, I think we had ticket stubs at that time. I know we had attendance numbers, which we got from Polster. Like you could download and buy Polster numbers, but then you've got numbers for every show and somebody had to go to the website and enter all those numbers, like this number for this date, this number for this date, this number for this date, for freaking 10 years worth of shows. So I got into that. I wanted to sit in front of my computer my senior year of college for hours at a time and enter in how long Seek Up was on July 1st, 1997, and the rest of that show. And the result of all of that time and hours over a lot of years is, what y'all see on the site, which is, I have a show up here that we'll maybe talk about a little later, July 1st, 97. Okay. Seek Up opener, 13 minutes and 46 seconds. Like, somebody has to literally type in that number and go listen to the song, at least listen to see where in the track the song starts and then where in the track the song ends. And just get really into those weeds. And I just sort of have a mind for that. I've got a personality for that kind of thing. And that's kind of how it started.
That's awesome. And how many shows have you been to personally?
This past Virginia Beach show last month was number 120. Although I hit 80 shows in 2002 and I hit 100 in 2010. Okay. So you hit 180 in 2002 and you've only seen 40 shows since then. I have not been to a lot of shows between 2004 and 2021. I'd been to about 20 shows in those 15 years, 16, 17 years.
Oh, okay. So a little bit of a gap. And with that gap, what are you, so you're not, when you're not in this period, where you're not going to shows, what are you contributing to the Almanac?
It's a lot easier to contribute to the Almanac when you're not at shows, to be honest, because when you're at shows, depending how far you're traveling, you could be flying somewhere, you could be driving hundreds of miles, staying in a hotel with dodgy internet, especially 15 years ago, hanging out with your friends, enjoying the experience of being out on the road and doing the thing. It's hard to get in the weeds with the Almanac in that kind of environment. Depending what other things you might, you're staying up late with your friends, you're hanging out with people you don't see very often. You're not sitting in front of a computer for 3 hours doing song times and Jimmy Thing interpolations in 2006, So, the best time to do Almanac work is the off season. So when they're not touring, because there's nothing new coming at you. You don't have to download a new show, flip it to MP3s, throw it up on the file server, listen to all the things, go into all the bits and pieces of it, grab all the song note stuff, check all the emails that we get, which, we get a decent amount. In the off season, all that stuff slows down. The web traffic slows down. People aren't hammering the site. We're not having to restart the server and things like that. So, so I got the most work done in the years that I was, not really going to shows. And for several years there, I wasn't really doing much at all with the Almanac. You get married, You have kids, you're trying to pay the mortgage and that kind of stuff. And right. You just get involved with other things. So, it's hard to do Almanac work when you're on tour. It's tricky.
Yeah. And I can say, at least, with a lot of my older coworkers, some of my bosses, I'm 31. So a lot of them were crazy into DMB from the late 90s and early 2000s. And we get to when I start in 2012 and they're starting to weave off with the families, with, getting a master's, dealing with other things in their life. So it's interesting to see and talk to fans that, like you, were going in the late 90s, mid to late 90s to start off. And then you kind of, hey, life happens. So at the beginning of this amazing site in 2002, was there any sort of structure in who does what, how are decisions made? What was it like in 2002 as far as how this operation ran?
Gosh, great question. 20 years ago, and a lot of life, a lot of my life since then, you know, would struggle to remember that. Although I guess the thing that I could say is in 2003, when I'd moved from North Carolina to Tampa, Florida, just graduated from college, didn't have a real like solid job. I'd not started a career yet. And I was dedicating hours to entering in all of that data for shows that we knew the shows existed. We were sitting on file servers on our computers. We just hadn't had the time to get to everything. I was spending a lot of time getting to everything. So there's a lot of old shows when you go to like a show page and there's like a paragraph of stuff written at the top about unique things that Dave said during the encore, things like that. I remember typing in a lot of that stuff during that time when I was like looking to, add information like that to shows. I guess the thing that I would say was there wasn't a lot of decision making. There wasn't a lot of like, what do we want the almanac to be? How are people using it? We didn't really have web traffic like we do now. We didn't have Google Analytics telling us who was there and when they're there and what devices they're using. Smartphones didn't exist back then. Tablets didn't exist. I mean, there were places where you didn't have high-speed internet and Wi-Fi. So, like, it was the internet wasn't even 10 years old back then. So, like, there weren't a lot of decisions to make regarding stuff like that or like where we wanted the almanac to go. I think we were mostly focused on just getting information in there and using it the way we wanted to use it for things like our fantasy set list game and just for our personal use. And if other people used it, great, but we weren't really thinking much about other people doing much with the site back then. It was just getting the data in there.
Okay. And then when did the tide start to turn as far as traffic going up, as far as determining how you decide a liberation or how you decide how to enter the set list compared to what the band page would put up? When did that start to change?
I mean, it's sort of, I don't know if I could say it like happened at one particular time, partially because, as I say, there was a time there when I kind of stepped back and took a break. I mean, I was still in touch with all these people. People were still like, I was living in Houston area. I was living 10 minutes away from the Woodlands venue for 12 of those years. So there were people that would come in from out of town, friends of mine, Almanac admins, people like Rob and Bobo. And they would come, they'd come to town and go to the shows and we'd talk about things. But, I don't know if it was like all of a sudden, like something just like changed and it really took off. I mean, I could go into the data and find out. But it's been a slow evolution. But the thing that's always been constant is how kind of like as much as it's just like a fan website about concerts and songs, we take it pretty seriously. Like, we get in pretty passionate debates about things as trivial as like how many shows should we display in the top left corner of the front page. Like, there is a number and that is how many are there. There are opinions about everything. And, some people want 10, some want 5, some say it should be dictated based on the spacing and the visual look of it. And it shouldn't be about a number. We'll talk about the fact that below it are the shows played on the same date in previous years.
Yes.
Sometimes that list gets really long at certain times of the year. Sometimes I think we looked the other day, there's 3 or 4 days where there've never been shows ever played on that day. So there's 3 or 4 days in the year, there's literally nothing there. So maybe we should show shows based on spacing and visual stuff. So my point is that like, all of that stuff is important to us. Nothing is just like, whatever. Some people will be like, I don't really care what that box looks like. Others are like, guys, it really should be like this. So we'll go with the thing that the couple of people who really care about it are like, fine. No, the other ones don't really care. So whatever. There are definitely debates where there are a handful of people and there are a handful of opinions. And, we kind of just have to stick with what we have unless we have a really good reason to change it. Or sometimes we'll look to Rob to make an executive decision just because the rest of us are indecisive.
Mm-hmm. Interesting
Yeah.
for sure. And at the shows, so I always am checking to see. Obviously, I've been at weddings, I've been at sports events where like it's an intense playoff game, but I want to know what DMB is playing. How do you guys kind of update the set list in real time? Do you guys have people at the show you trust? Do you what type of methods do you use to really ensure what's going up there live is accurate?
Yeah. So a couple of things. It is manual. And by that, I mean, we don't have something automated that's automatically taking the set list from the band or somewhere else and automatically doing things. A person, one of us with the login credentials to the admin side of the system, has to log in with a username and password, go to the show page that says set list currently not available. You click that little tiny admin button you see at the bottom. That is us to get into it, to do stuff. And then we do things. We have to pick which song it is. There's a little box that can select whether it's a seg. It automatically brings up the standard personnel for the current tour, which has been pretty standard for over 10 years now. You can make changes to personnel. You can type in notes. You could enter song times, although doing real-time song times is very problematic and generally not near as accurate as it is when you wait for a recording to come out. Right. Like when I'm at shows, I do some of that stuff. I'm listening for things, and there's just standard stuff that, like, the seg from so much to anyone seen the bridge to too much. Like that's just, if I'm at a show and nobody else is doing Almanac stuff, I'll do that kind of thing. I'll type in, like there was a Norwegian wood interpolation in Lying in the Hands of God at Camden this year. I think it was night 2. Yeah, it was night 2. That sort of thing. Like I'll type in when you hear that, but the other part about it is we're at the show. We're fans just like y'all are. I mean, I taped 11 shows this past summer, so I was kind of having to deal with some of that during the shows. But I'm there to enjoy it just like y'all are. I don't want to spend my time typing on my phone the whole time, although sometimes you just kind of get in the mood and you want to do some of that for a little bit. Other times you're just having a really good time and enjoying the set list, and it's what you want the set list to be, and they're playing your favorite songs, and you're not thinking about song times or segs or interpolations. You're just, tickets are expensive, guys. Let's be honest. Sometimes you want to just enjoy the music, and you can deal with Almanac stuff later. And frankly, most of the Almanac guys that have access to the admin side of it and do that, almost all of us do very little when we're physically at the shows. We listen to the couch tour. So that's where a lot of the stuff comes in real time. If you see interpolations and stuff, we're fans just like y'all. When I'm sitting at the house and I want to watch some Dave I've never heard before, you'll flip on the couch tour and enjoy it like everybody else.
So if nobody's at the show, like let's say no one's at Tahoe, this past Tuesday, how you guys are on the couch tour getting the set list, or do you guys have people that may text you from the show, like if none of the admins are there, or how does that work?
Yeah, couch tour or any of the other places y'all get set lists. Frankly, the set lists are generally not entered by people at the show because there's other people who aren't at the show who will do it. So the people at the show don't feel responsible for doing that sort of thing. So I've got this weekend off from work, although I'm installing vinyl flooring at the house. So I don't know how much Dave I'm going to watch when I'm East Coast time, and their Pacific time, I'm going to be pretty cooked. But if I want to enter in stuff, I'll just go to the usual places, couch tour, other places running set lists. We know the guys in Ants Marching. Sometimes we'll use that. I think Joe is still running the band's set list behind the curtain in the warehouse page or whatever. So we'll use that too. I mean, any of the standard stuff.
Oh, so you guys will go. You guys will follow that warehouse set list and then follow behind. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people wanted to know. They're like, wait, how does the almanac update these shows in real time? And like you were just saying, as I would want to do, if you guys are at the show, you're not focused on that, but somebody behind the scene. Okay, so you guys are checking these other sources of that even me I look at on a nightly basis. Okay.
Yeah, like I went to a bunch of shows this summer, but for the last almost 20 years, I've just gone to one or two each year, and so I'm not doing the set list while I'm at the show. It's usually people who are just at home who are just. When I say people, I mean one of the 8 admins, and there's really 4 or 5 of us who traditionally contribute to that kind of thing. Would do it for the other guys.
Awesome. And one of the things that this is really, like I said, I've said this nonstop. My show on here, everything when I go into other people's platforms, I try to use the data on this website to say, okay, you're thinking emotionally, which is fine. You can have that emotion, but let's look at the numbers before we just make these judgments. And one of the things that at least in the last couple of years, is as I'm scrolling down the website, we see this data about, how you rank songs by the percentage of the catalog played, how many different songs were there per tour. Was there a driving factor behind posting some of this content that I kind of noticed a couple years ago? These have 2021, 2021. These look like they're very, very new pieces of data. Was there anything that started to drive this data being on the website?
Nothing specific, I would say. It's just we think like that. I mean, how couldn't you if you like spend a lot of time in a site like this?
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, we have this site to provide that information, and we
Right.
wouldn't do that if some of us weren't at least like interested in it. So a lot of the time it's just we want to know those answers for ourselves. So we'll like I was doing beats per minute one day. I was like, I wonder what somebody was. I say somebody. When I say somebody, I mean one of the other admins at the Almanac was talking about how the beats per minute and Don't Drink the Water have changed. So like from Leave Me Praying to like old school Don't Drink the Water, and then a few years later. So like I just created an Excel spreadsheet. I went into our file server. I'll just explain that in a minute. And started listening to Don't Drink the Water, and just went to a website that has a beat counter where you just hit the space bar as you hear the beats, and it tells you beats per minute. Because we were curious how beats per minute changed, and we all had opinions about where it went and what it had done. We talked about Gray Street in the same sort of realm. And sometimes, as you say, your emotions get the best of you, and you are not even remotely close to what that answer actually is. So we're just genuinely curious, like everybody else. And some of the guys write really well and have a good, way of describing what this idea is about and why we're doing this and what our thoughts are and ways to crunch the numbers. And then, we put it up on the site to share with other people, and hopefully people are interested in what we're talking about.
Yeah, and I actually I'm going to mute you real quick. I want to play some of this because the Gray Street and Don't Drink the Water thing, some of this is emotion, like you said. And I'd love to hear some of what you found about that. But I have been
I'm going to find
adamant.
that data real quick while you do this too. I
Okay.
kept that.
Okay. All right. I'm going to mute you. So I have been adamant, as you guys know, about the fact that Don't Drink the Water has been sped up. There's been a lack of the bass. The bass was much more clearer in the earlier versions of the song. And it was better when it was actually a song that was slower and more, we're going to take your land brutally versus, hey, let's be loud and have electric guitar and all this loud noise at the beginning. And this is some of what I had on Instagram. Let's play this clip here. my point of view on this whole situation about don't drink the water. This is how it can be improved. Let's listen to Hartford 1998 live track 57. When you listen to this, right, you are going to be able to hear every single instrument, and the verses are going to have Dave's message be heard better. We talk about this is an important message for everyone to take in at a show, especially the fans who are there for the first time. But listen to how you can distinguish every single instrument. Let's listen to live track 57 here. And really, that's loud, that's powerful, but there still isn't this wall of sound. Stefan's bass, and I think that's one of the things that probably is why it's not the same. Stefan's bass is deep and powerful, and you can hear it even as the horns and the drums crash, right? You can hear Stefan's bass. Now let's listen to the verse. You're going to be able to hear exactly what Dave is saying. And after he does his first, does a phrase and they play behind, it's not going to be too loud. Not too loud, right? Up here, right? See how much you can hear Stefan. Now we're gonna listen to the Hollywood Bowl, Don't Drink the Water, and you can hear every instrument, and especially Stefan. You can hear Stefan perfectly in this mix. Let's listen to the Hollywood Bowl. This was the 2018 Hollywood Bowl show that they selected for a special release. You're going to be able to distinguish the difference. It's sped up, it's louder, and you can't distinguish. You're not going to be able to hear it. Like Stefan is missing in this. Let's get this up here. The quickness of that horn, it feels rushed. You even hear da, 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 stop. My ears need to recover. But when it's slower, it's better. And again, going back to this comparison of when people took over land, when the Native Americans, the indigenous people of this land were got. It was slow and painful, not fast and quick, like we got to get out of here and hurry up with the song. There's less impact. And now listen to the verse. You're going to hear a lot more noise, and it takes away from the message of the song. Look at that already. Dave is singing, and Tim C.D. saying, dun, da, dun, da, dun, right? He's already blasting over Dave while he's singing. Okay? All right. So that was just a little snippet from you can see there's definitely emotion in there, but I wanted to point that out. Now,
I mean, it was faster when you said it was faster. So, I mean, it's not.
That is true. So I'm looking at this now. Now, did you stop at 2003?
Yeah, I mean
Okay.
it was a Saturday afternoon kind of like
Okay.
I didn't go through the whole thing. I just started with the first performances and the Dave and Tim Weight of the World, Dave and Tim '96, and then it was Leave Me Praying. It was a Dave solo in the encore, and I didn't do all the performances because they were all kind of lining up similarly. But it definitely started off really quick. I don't know how well any of y'all know Dave and Tim '96 shows. Again, kind of back to my era. That was a very quick song, and the "Leave Me Praying" was pretty quick too. Although you can see in the data at the end of the '97 tour when he was playing that in the encore, it started to slow down and sort of landed on its right around 90 beats per minute, a little bit faster, a little bit slower. It's also another thing I learned during that was how generally consistent Carter is at beats per minute and keeping time throughout a song. So like, yeah, there's a couple where he's moving around and who knows why. Maybe a bug was playing with his face and he just wanted to get the freaking song over or something. Who knows? But like when I got those numbers, I was listening to the beginning of the song, the middle of the song, and then the end of the song with a big kind of crescendo before it intentionally slows down. And he is consistently on the money with the same number or within a single digit of it, which there's machines and devices that do all that stuff now, like blinking lights and stuff. I don't know if Carter uses any of that. You could if you wanted to, but back in '96 and '97 and '98, I can't imagine him even considering using anything like that. And he is consistent on those beats per minute. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that's a skill that is very, as someone who's played clarinet in an honors band, played electric guitar, acoustic guitar, it is hard to get a rhythm down to a T. You can sit at a metronome for 3 or 4 hours a day. I remember doing that clarinet where I do an hour of just metronome practice for my honors band, and it was like it still is hard to get things on tempo. And just for you guys, if you guys can't see this, these Leave Me Prayings in 1996 are at around 101 to 105 beats per minute. So that's faster. Obviously, the higher up the number, the faster it is. When we get down to 97, late 97 into early 98, it's 87 to about 91. And then we get to the 2003s, and it's still almost nearly dead on, but you get more into the 90s and the 80s are gone. And I'd be interested to see what the 2010 to present is there, because the beats per minute on those, they have to be faster. It's just a matter of how much. So very cool that when you have time, you're able to pull awesome things like this out there.
And that all came from a conversation about can we include beats per minute, and it just was a
Yeah.
conversation. I mean, it wasn't one of those where it was like we have to decide yes or no. It's just, again, a Saturday afternoon, we're all dinking around at the house doing who knows what, and somebody texts in the Discord, what do you think about beats per minute? And people just chime in and give their opinion. And we needed some examples to figure out what we could do with it. And then you have a discussion like, well, what if the number changes? So now we've got a range. So you like the logistics of entering that in the website is hard. You can't just be picking numbers or a drop down box of numbers. Now, if you're going to have a range, you're typing in text, which leads to difficult data compilation, because you can't just pull out all the things that were 95 beats per minute, because now you're dealing with a range. We talked about, well, if it changes in the middle of the song, how are you certain? There's software out there that can pick beats per minute, but frankly, most of the tapes aren't good enough for the software to be able to consistently get a good number out of. So when I ran Don't Drink the Water through one of these pieces of software, it said it was 150 beats per minute, which has never happened. And that was just the first one I did, which was a really clean sounding audience tape. So it couldn't be automated because the software is not good enough. Who's going to spend all of that time? Which song are we going to do? Are we going to do this for every song consistently long term? And then it turned into this isn't really something that is a practical a practical use of our time currently when there's other stuff we want to do. And after about an hour of back and forth, it quickly died. And this was the time I spent during that conversation doing a little work just to get some numbers.
I see. Okay. Very
What
cool.
happened?
So the main thing that, even before we get to some fan questions, there's a lot of people. I have this Alpine 7116 show, and and I've heard this with the Mohegan 2012 show, the first Mohegan Sun show, about the people. I was there, but there's a lot of debates about how do you determine a tease versus a partial versus interpolation. So how do you guys determine how you're going to classify this, and even if you're going to list it on the ledger line as a tease or partial versus an
Mm-hmm.
interpolation?
Yeah. So before I give our sort of definition of each one, understand that our intentions are to take all of the emotion out of every decision we can possibly make because we want things to be consistent. Whether even we internally agree with what those decisions are, I'll be honest, oftentimes we don't. Like, is any noise anti-noise say goodbye? Is it its own thing? Is it like the evolution of a song? Like 41 Police, how did that turn into just 41? Why do we call it that? We try to come up with like set rules as much as possible so that what we think and feel about a particular performance on a particular day doesn't matter because the definition is the definition. So I want to make sure I get this right. So a partial is a song that's, well, let me start with a tease. A tease is a piece of a song that has less than a verse and a chorus. A partial is more than that, and the song is the song. So a tease is missing. So let me define it another way. A partial has more than a verse or a chorus. So if it's Dave doing number 40 and you don't have a complete verse with something else, it's a tease. So you got to have more than just a verse. You got to have more than just a chorus for it to be a partial.
Okay.
So and I don't know this particular performance of Dodo from 2016. I mean, I could listen to it, but anything that's 32 seconds is going to be very difficult to be more than just a tease because it's hard to get more than just a verse or more than just a chorus in 32 seconds.
Okay. And I'll with this Dodo and even with the people, are you guys actually hearing that on the taper's audio? Are you going by someone who may be right at the rail? How do you determine if you're even going to put people, or Dodo here?
So sometimes when some of us are at the show, we'll enter things in thinking we heard it.
Okay.
But it's pretty easy to tell if it's something that's going to be controversial. We always listen to the tapes. In fact, it's getting to the point where we're reluctant to do anything like that if we haven't heard the tapes. We basically just wait until the tapes come out to start entering stuff, unless somebody's watching the couch tour and it's obvious, or like, let's see, I think it was might have been night 1 Deer Creek this year, where there was a Nancy's Warehouse. Do I remember that right? Yeah, night 1 Nancy's Warehouse. I swore I was at the show, and I swore to Rob that was not a seg, because I saw Dave stop playing and go take a sip of tea or whatever he drinks and puts it down, and then go into Warehouse. And so when somebody was updating the set list in real time, I unchecked the button that had the seg because I was there. I was near the stack. I mean, I was taping the show. I was certain that it wasn't a seg. Rob was like, no. I heard it on the stream. It was definitely a seg. And then you listen to the tape, and it's like, yeah, that is within our definition of a seg, and we added it. So
Okay.
it's all about listening to the tapes. There's no other way we really do almost any of this.
And that's interesting. Even like you said, you're sticking to that formula, even though you were there and you physically saw something. You're going to stick to that audio, which I think that's a good process because that way you keep it consistent. Now with this, there's a couple of things here we want to go over. So you and me, we have this hope for tomorrow prelude. Is there a reason why
Yeah,
it's not listed as like a tease or partial
yeah,
or
that's a
anything like?
great question. And I was literally sitting at the circle of admins at the campground at Deer Creek when we kind of made this decision.
Oh,
It was me and Dan Cheatham. There's somebody else there. There was a handful of us there, and I taped the show, and we were listening to it, and I was like, Dan, we need to figure out what we're doing here, because there's this thing that's happening before. It's happening before you and me, I think.
yeah.
And I'm like, we need to do something here. So let me see if I get the story straight. Joe, when I say Joe, I'm talking about Joe Lawler, who generally, from what I understand, does the real time sort of the set list update at the shows. He was calling it. There was a reference to the song "Hope for Tomorrow." He put that in one of the set lists earlier in the year, and I'd been to a number of shows, and I was entering data into the almanac, and I was hearing this thing, and it was just notes, and I knew what song was going to get played next because I was hearing these notes consistently. And then it got lyrics. There was just,
Yeah.
and it was hard to kind of understand them. But I think we got some transcriptions of the lyrics, and but it clearly wasn't a complete song. We're thinking maybe this might end up being something. This might end up being something on the new album that's coming out, or so I said, here's what we're going to do. If we just have those notes in that key, which is clearly being played as the same thing every night, we're going to say it's you and me, and it includes prelude. We're going to call that just a prelude to the song. But if we get any number of lyrics, we're going to call it Hope for Tomorrow Prelude. And so that does a couple things. One, it defines what we're doing here, so we're consistent every night, and the data is the same. But it also means if that actually ends up coming out as being a song or something more than just these bits and pieces, we know exactly where to go and what to do because we've differentiated between the two things, and we can then refer to it as a tease or a partial or whatever because we know which ones has lyrics and has a potential to be more and which ones have less. So then while sitting in the circle at the campground, I went into the admin side and typed in those things and listened to the song and the bits and pieces, and in about 20 minutes made those changes.
Okay, interesting. And then actually, I say all that to say there was my first ever show. I believe it was after One Sweet World. When was that? My first show there was Do You Remember was played. Well, actually, I think it was before. I think he had electric guitar. So I think it was this improv jam. Yeah, you guys have different from the Kill the Preacher intros. Let me zoom in right here. And he actually is saying, "Do you remember Copperpot got a shot of this?" But you guys even have that note that is different from the Kill the Preacher intros. And it actually, he's saying, "Do you remember? Do you remember?" And he's like, ah, da, 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 da. So it's cool to see how sometimes those these things evolve, and sometimes, hey, maybe this hope for tomorrow thing never makes the light of day. You guys keep it as just the note versus having that as a prelude or some sort of thing like that. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, another kind of side note to getting in those weeds and figuring out what do I type here. So you asked me a couple days ago some things to talk about, and I mentioned just random stuff that you run into when you're updating the almanac. I hear all kinds of stuff that I had no idea. Um, had no idea the band played this or did this, and I don't think anybody else knows this either. One example was when I converted the December 13th, 98 show in Minneapolis. The band played Rapunzel, and I love Rapunzel. And I've
Mhm.
converted that tape when I was in college, late one night in probably 2002. And when I was converting to it, and I love the 98 year. If any of y'all want to listen to a bunch of shows of a tour you might not know that well and hear some amazing stuff, 98 is a great year to start. And so I always listened to Rapunzel when I was converting those shows, because sometimes you just hit play on the deck, hit play in your computer or record in your computer, and you're not really listening to it. You're just trying to get the work done. But I always listen to that song. And if you've never heard the performance of Rapunzel on December 13th, 98, do yourself a favor. Dave gets the verses mixed up. And when it goes into the chorus, um, the second time, ends up totally off the rails, which has happened before, but it's never happened like this. And the band just completely falls apart with the exception of Carter and Tim. And Carter and Tim held it together. And then Tim just starts jamming, and the whole thing just ends up just going into this place, and it's amazing. And when you're getting in the weeds with the almanac, trying to update songs and times and stuff, like you hear things like that all the time. Uh, I was listening to Every Crash Into Me a few months ago. Um,
Wow.
yeah, you heard right. Every single Crash Into Me, from 4 minutes and 30 seconds to 5 minutes and 20 seconds in the song, to get all the Dixie Chicken interpolations, because it's freaking annoying to me that we have Dixie Chicken entered for most songs where it was done, but there's performances out there where he does the Dixie Chicken interpolation and we don't have it entered in the site. So I spent the better part of 2.5 days listening to literally every one in between that time gap and updating. It's over 600 performances, by the way. And when I was listening to them, I came and I was doing it chronologically. So you like heard the evolution of the song. I know which performance Dave does the falsetto Crash Into Me at the end for the first time, because all that happens in that window. And so I got to July 97, and the song times were not lining up. Like, I was going to 4 minutes and 30 seconds into the song for some shows, and it was not at the place in the song where it should have been. So I'm like, one of two things happened here. Either there's something happening in the beginning of the song making it longer or shorter, or whoever tracked it out and converted those shows did a poor job and they didn't start the song where they should. Come to find out, Stefan was playing a bass solo at the beginning of almost every one of those Crash Into Me's in July 97 for like more than just
Oh,
a couple notes. It was like a significant thing that he was doing, which sounds amazing. I mean, it's not like a new verse. It's not totally changing lyrics. It's Stefan playing a bass solo. But how many people know that for a week and a half in 97, Stefan was playing a bass solo at the start of Crash Into Me? And it was because it
right.
wasn't tracked out right. Some of the shows, they were putting that bass solo at the end of the previous song. So it wasn't there to listen to. So if you skip over to Crash Into Me, you had no idea that it was there. So stuff that happens because you listen to 665 performances of Crash Into Me, you find out Stefan played a bass solo at the start of it for like a week and a half. And I wish he'd bring it back because it sounds amazing. But, that's kind of, you never know everything about this band. Like, I've listened to all those songs. I've listened to every Tripping Billies to get all the nature intros at the front of them. You know, Leroy's solos in June of '08 at the very end of his playing days with the band. There's like some amazing stuff he plays at the end of those songs that if I wasn't grinding hard on getting those nature intros and all of that stuff, I would have never heard it. I would have never known it happened. Which is probably one of the cooler things about doing all this work in the almanac like I do, like hearing stuff that you would never hear and never know.
Okay. And the other big thing people are talking about is Lying in the Hands of God. The American Baby intro that we have here. It why someone wanted to know why is it in the notes instead of being something where it's added like Lying in the Hands of God, American Baby, Interpolation, ABI Interpolation, Lying in the Hands of God. Why do you decide to keep it in the notes?
Big, it took me a minute to like figure out what that question was, because I was like, I mean, he's just singing lyrics in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's an interpolation. It's not
Okay.
gone to something else. But rethinking, because I was kind of like sort of trying to figure out what that question was about and why somebody was thinking about it. And then if you think about it, the ending of that song, because of those lyrics, it ends very differently than it does like on the album. Like the song does kind of change into something else there, and it ends on that, that kind of like hard beat at the end.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an extension of that American Baby intro lyrical thing, interpolation that's happening there. And again, it's one of those, it's subjective, right? Is that American Baby intro in a different sort of form, or is it just some lyrics from it that takes the song into a little bit of a different place, but not really changing it into that song and segging it to something else? We just made the decision that it's an interpolation of American Baby intro and the Bourbons and Lacs.
And I agree with that. And what I'll say to people, I know, I think it was Hines on here was asking that with that American Baby intro, they're not playing the da 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 da. They're interpolating lyrics from American Baby intro, just like all the other ones. Um, so I agree 100% with that. It's an interpolation. It's not American Baby intro proper. They don't shift the song into a different type of orchestration musically to actually play what that song is played when it's a standalone. Even right here below us, so we have. Let's take a look at Deer Creek because we have here this. I was at the show Hartford. We have So Damn Lucky. Thank You is interpolated. It's in the notes. But then I believe. Let me take a look here. In 2022, we go to Alpine and there's actually it's a little bit different. Let's see, was it night one or night two? Oh, night one. Okay. So this is one, maybe you don't know this off the top of your head, but for this one, when I was at the show, it kind of they kind of stopped it and then they started playing it again. Um, in a situation like that, is there going to be some sort of debate or challenge to say, hey, do we have Thank You as a full-fledged separation from So Damn Lucky, or is it, hey, listen, they just were there wasn't they didn't go into that verse or chorus, so we're just going to keep it as a Thank You interpolation? Because I don't know if you're familiar with that, they kind of stopped the song, they were playing with it, and they start, Carter starts drumming because they had the crowd would not stop singing Thank You for Letting Me Be Myself Again. Mm-hmm. So they kind of had to do this little like drum thing, like it was like almost like a freestyle. And so they stop and start, but there's no actual verse saying or anything like that. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. There's a short answer and there's a long answer. I'll give them both to you. So the short answer is whatever we hear and whatever we think in that subjective moment of hearing it, knowing that there might be different versions of this kind of. I see you, John Dix. There might be different versions of that interpolation slash seg to another song. We are listening for things we've heard before and trying to enter it the way we've always entered it, however that is. So
Okay.
if somebody, and I don't remember, I did a lot of the song times this past summer. I don't know if there's a reason why I just was the one doing it a lot of the time, but I didn't do all of them, and I don't remember if I was the one that did this one. So that's the short version for situations like that. We just try to be consistent. Whatever we decided at one point, we're going to continue doing until somebody says, no, we've been wrong all along. We need to change them all. The longer version is, and it's kind of a bit of a pull the curtain back here. And I'll just use myself as an example. Let's say I was the one that did these song times, and I might have done these song times and entered these notes. When I'm entering song times, I'm not listening to the whole show and listening to the entire song and looking at the time on my VLC player on my computer. 99, really 100% of the time, I hit play on the track. I decide whether or not the music began less than a second into it. So if it's less than a second into it, I know that the song ends at the time that the song ends at the end of the track. Sometimes people track it out where there's 3 seconds of dead space beforehand, which is freaking annoying, but whatever. I'll have to subtract that from the time. Then I go to the end and I get the length of the song. That's the first thing I'll do. Then I'll go back into the song and listen to other things. Like if I go to the end and I know the song didn't end the way So Damn Lucky ends, I know the thank you thing's happening. But I might not listen to enough of it to know all the detail that you just described in it. And I might enter it in as one thing when it's actually something else. And that's something that just for the sake of time and effort is just going to be what it's going to be until somebody like you feels the way you might feel about it and you send us an email and we get a submission that says, hey, check this out. We think this thing is happening. And I generally manage the email box. In the off season, we don't get many. During the tour time, we get a lot. Well, I'll go to the file server. I'll open up the folder. I'll go to the track. I'll listen to it. I'll fast forward to the song time that we've been given, and I'll listen to what you tell us to listen to, and then we'll make a decision, and maybe we change it, and maybe we don't. So that's kind of how you end up with some inconsistency. Frankly, we might just not have heard it because I just can't listen to everything. I know that sounds like we're kind of like mailing it in a little bit, but like they're playing almost every night. We all got day jobs. We might be on tour, like traveling around, going to shows and things, sing, and doing other things. And we make mistakes. That's why those submissions are important, and we appreciate all of them that come in. So keep them coming.
Awesome. I know I tagged you guys in the one. This was last year at MSG. I thought I heard some G funk, and I think you guys added it in. I actually, when I added you guys on Twitter, I had my audio from John Dix who took the video, and it was for ants marching, the nothing but a G thing interpolation. So you guys got that in pretty quickly. I think I sent that to you before the tapes were out, or the tapes may have just gotten out that morning. I remember sending you guys the video of that. So um, I do want to try
Yeah.
to get. Oh, go ahead.
Nope. You go.
As I said, I do want to get to some of these questions, and then
Yeah.
we'll definitely have you back. Well, I'll keep in touch because I know there's so much we could go over. But there's some fan questions. We'll do some quick hits. So the one of the big ones, has the band or anyone from management contacted you guys about what you do as far as the work with the set list?
Yeah. They do. We talk now and again. they've come to us for reasons. I'm reluctant to get too specific with it because some of it has to do with let's just say official band business. I know it's cryptic and sounds a little weird. They come to us for help, or they have questions, or they want to know information. And, our site has a lot of info. So, so they ask us for help sometimes, and we're always happy to give it. Sometimes we trip over ourselves to get back to them quickly because we want to keep that communication open. Yeah, and it's not really to the DMBAlmanac email box. It's usually to a person or two specific on the site. I'll I guess one kind of reveal is Rab, the guy, Dave's voice coach.
Yes,
he's put out a lot of live streams and Twitter streams and things like that where you can see him using the almanac. With Dave, if you look at those really closely on his tablet, oftentimes he's using the almanac for lyrics, and he's pinged us and just really as a thank you for the site and how he uses it, which is pretty cool. I'll just take a quick second to tell a quick story about the Deer Creek posters. So night 2, and it's John Dix is in this story too. I'll throw you in there. So night 2, Deer Creek is the Daniel Danger Tiny Media Empire poster, the big black and white one with the gold trim.
Yes.
And I never bought a poster at a show, and I've been to a lot of shows, and it's just not been my thing. I got nothing against posters, but I just, and when you're taping shows like I did this past year, it's really hard to get posters because you can genuinely buy them inside. I'm setting up gear and everything, and by the time I'm able to go get some water or whatever, it's like 7:00 and all the posters are gone. They were selling posters outside of Deer Creek night 2, actually both nights, and John needed a ride to the venue. I think it might have been the night I gave him the ride or whatever.
He always needs a ride. He never drives.
I mean,
that lazy son of a gun needs Uber service by anyway. Let's
100% of the shows that I've been to at John Dix, he was asking for a ride. I don't know what that means, but so he was like, I'm gonna wait in line for a poster. I was like, I'll wait in line with you. I kind of like the poster. I'd gotten sent a picture of it earlier in the day from a friend, and I was like, yeah, it looks pretty cool. Let's wait in line for a poster. So we waited in line. I was counting people and telling people, you're about at 200, so you might get a poster and you might not, and kind of joking around with people and talking about the almanac and stuff. And I ended up getting a poster. We were like one of the last 10 in. John got one too, and a friend he was with too. John took a great picture of me holding up 3 poster tubes, which is kind of cool. And so I get home a couple days later, the next day, and I put the poster on my wall. It's like right here, and I get a message in our Discord with our Dave people where one of our friends, Mike Peters, sent a message in Instagram or something to the guy that designed the poster and said, it looks like the Almanac guys' names are in this thing. And if you zoom in really closely in the center of the poster, you see Hag, Hart, Boken, Dan, Andy. You literally see our names in the poster. And
wow.
And so I'm looking at the poster on my wall, looking at this message, and you get up close to it and you're like, that's actually a thing, in the poster, there we are. And so I sent a message to the guy who designed the posters, and we chatted a little bit, and he kind of told the story about how he put our names in there, and he used the almanac to look up Deer Creek posters in the past to make sure he wasn't duplicating any themes or anything. So that's kind of another example of somebody, connecting with us in a way. And it's right where it says Dave Matthews in the middle of that train, and above the A and the T and that pane, right next to the left of the door. And it's hard to see in a screen share. I mean, you can go to the Almanac and see it yourselves. But yeah, my ended up. I'm looking at the wall. It was in our dining room at the time, and I'm looking at a message, and it was just kind of one of those cool moments where it makes makes listening to 650 crash into me is kind of worth it.
And that's fate. I mean, that's the only poster you're kind of really going after. So the other one that we had here is in what ways do you guys kind of uncover previously unknown shows and set lists?
Another great question, which is related to the almanac, because a lot of us, I say a lot of us, there's only 8 people really involved with the almanac.
Okay.
We all kind of do unique things. But I've always been in that circle. You know, if you go look at text files of shows way back in the day, when I say way back in the day, I mean 90s and early, really shows in the 90s where they were converted long after they were recorded. You'll see my name all over stuff in there. Um, you know, we know old school tapers, people like Mark Lynn, Bill Lakin, and I've been texting with recently. My Facebook picture, if you like click on it, it zooms out to a much larger picture. Bill's the guy taking the selfie. He taped a ton of shows from 94 through 99.
Oh.
He's got all those DAT tapes still. He sent me a picture of all those DAT tapes, and it's like, you know, you get in the weeds with which shows have been converted before, what sources we have, what's only analog. Does he have a digital copy of it? So a lot of it's just staying in touch with old friends and having them dig, like he's literally digging into his basement into a box to get these DAT tapes out. A lot of it is literally just scouring the internet. So another story for another day, the Minarets Archive is a thing that existed in the early infancy of the internet for people to talk about Dave Matthews. And if you just search through that archive, you'll find names and email addresses of people that said they taped shows. And if you go to the internet and you search those things and you connect the dots, you find people out on Twitter who still have their DAT tape collections of shows from early 90s. And you start a conversation with them, and all of a sudden, 3 days later, they've mailed you a DAT tape of a show from the Wetlands in 93 we didn't even know existed, like let alone we didn't even know that show happened in May of 93 until the DAT tape showed up at my house 6 months ago. Wow. So it's a lot of sleuth work, having good connections. The fact of the matter is we've done a lot of that work, and anything we get is probably going to be onesie twosies. There's not like a big treasure trove that's going to show up one day.
Okay. Do you know by chance, someone wants to know, like, what's the rarest show in the last decade? Is there a way to determine that, or do you kind of know offhand some rare shows with like that rarity ranking?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's really cool. There's this website where you can go to and like click on like years and stuff, and it has these numbers that have rarity rankings. And I would just like literally click year by year and search, see which one had the highest number. Although it's not really comparing apples to apples, because each rarity is compared to other shows within the tour. So one show that's super rare in one tour might not be all that rare down the road. Like shows that happened in 1993 are going to be like, you know, unicorns compared to stuff happening now. So it's hard to compare rarity rankings outside of the same tour because you're not comparing the same data.
Right.
So, but I mean, I would just look for shows that are the distance that the most rare show in a tour being from the second most rare show in the tour, looking for shows where that gap is statistically significant, and then you probably have a gem on your hands. But then you got to look at what made that number so rare. Is it a guest that's never guested before that played on a lot of songs in an encore that's never happened before? Like one person showing up for one song can skew a rarity.
I was going to say Raleigh is the rarest show this year, and because it's in the 5s, and I think that Pay for What You Get Too Much to Halloween was a huge
Pay for What You Get in Halloween are driving that number. Yeah. But I remember thinking I could go to the Raleigh show, but I got a work thing and I'll just do Virginia Beach. I remember looking at that set list and being, and this is just me, don't hate. I remember saying, I'm kind of glad I didn't go really out of my way to go to that show, although I love Pay for What You Get, and it's been 19 years since I've seen it. I was like, again, it's just me. It didn't feel all that like rare and unique, but the numbers don't lie. If you say it's the highest number, that is the rarest show of the
Yeah.
tour based
I
on that.
think that I look at the you never know rhyming. So you got a bunch of three play songs. Minaret, Space Between.
Yeah.
Rhyme and Reason was only the second one. The other one was at Deer Creek. Um, and then you have Again and Again, the third time it's played. Speaking of that, someone wanted to know what your personal opinion, what makes a great set list for you?
Well, I'll just say one more thing about this Raleigh show that's kind of connected to it is half of that show so half of the songs of that show had been played 5 times or less at that point on the tour.
Okay.
So like you got like 5 of 6, 5 of 5, 4 of 5, 3 of 3, 3 of 3, 3 of 3, like, songs that a lot of songs that at least up till that point, and really there haven't been a lot of shows since. We're pretty rare. What makes a great set list? So that's not the same thing as what makes a great show, because those are definitely two different questions. Um, and there's also a difference between a great set list of a show that you're at and a great set list of just a show in general.
Right.
Um, I mean, it's not really that complicated. I want to hear songs that I like and that I want to hear.
Okay.
I don't need to hear a song they never play just to hear a song they never play. Because if I don't like it, I'm going to go get something to drink while they play it, probably. No offense. There's the songs that I really like. It's funny, you got your first What You Are at MSG last year.
Yes, I did.
I didn't see that song this summer, I don't think, and I've seen it 33 times.
Wow.
Because I was there at a ton of shows in 01 and 02 when it was in the encore a lot and just played a lot, because that was my era that I went to a lot of shows.
Yeah.
So I want to hear songs I like. I mean, Gray Street's my favorite song. It's always going to be. It's like top 3 favorite songs like in my whole life. There's particular performances of it that I know like every note of Roy's solo and the outro in my head of lots of those songs. So I want to hear that. I love Lying in the Hands of God and Funny the Way It Is. Number 41 was the first song I saw live. It was the first song my oldest daughter, Catherine, saw live. So I love hearing number 41.
Oh, that's awesome.
I want to hear songs that I like. And
I was going to say, I want to point out to people, because I just did this, knowing that I was going to be interviewing you. I realize, you make the donation, you get this any donation size. So you go to right here, at the top of the screen. Let me I'm going to put us down so people can see this better. But if you go to the top right of the screen, it's a PayPal donate sign. Some people were asking how you do that. So what happens is you hit this button and you can make a donation. So for me, it's gonna, I have PayPal, it's set up on my computer. I can make a donation there. And then once you make a donation, you get a confirmation email to say, and then you're going to eventually they'll email you back a confirmation code. And you're going to go to this at the top right. I'm logged in, but you can register or sign in. So it did take a couple of hours, I think. But that's quick turnaround. I mean, listen, for this site, being run by you guys, and there's not a huge, large company behind it, you get this turnaround. The reason I say that is I entered all my shows in. And one of the cool things that I liked about this, I was able to see, I've said this a lot of times, about before my first 41, I saw so many different songs. So I can actually do that. So I can do my song chart. So what's cool about this is my song chart, you can see every single song I saw before 41. It took me about 7 shows to see 41. So where's 41? 41 is down here. let me just show you guys some of the songs I heard before my first 41. So the first, and this is 2012. So this is I wasn't in the heyday of the band. So I got Stone 7, Proudest Monkey, One Sweet World, The Improv, which is the Do You Remember, YM Crush, Mercy, Shake Me, Spaceman, Jimmy, Gaucho, Crash, Lionhead's God. I got Blackjack, Granny, PNP Rapunzel, Time Bomb Cornbread, The People Tease, He, Fish Tender, Right Away. First time I got them back to back. Funny the way it is, Rooftops, Death on the High Seas song debut. Out of My Hands, Gray Street, You Might Die Trying, Belly Full, Belly Button. Oh no, that was a partial. The full one is coming up. It was a day later, or a couple days. Yeah, a day later. Um, Belly Full, Belly Nice, Riff, Everyday, Drunken Soldier, Don't Drink the Water, Typical Situation, Christmas Song If Only, Watchtower, a number 34 on the 12 string for the 34th ever show in Hartford. And by the way, no other venue outside of Hartford has had a number 34, a number 41, a number 36. Oh no, wait. No, no other venue has had any incorporation of 34 in its 34th show, and also had a number 41 at its 41st show. It's the Meadows is the only venue to have both. Some venues have had the number 41. A couple of venues have their 41st show had that, but Hartford's the only one that has 34 of any kind on the 34th show and 41 in its full, if that makes sense. So that's that. I got that. A JTR Warehouse Squirm, Broken Things, I Dare You, Kill the Preacher, Captain. So you see some of these Jane, all this stuff. But this is what's crazy. Before number 41, I had Captain, Dreaming Tree, Rhyme and Reason, Spoon, Best of What's Around, recently Blue Water, Two Step. the last true reflections ever in the full band variety. Back-to-back years of Long Black Veil when they weren't really playing it that much. Stolen Away, all this stuff. A number 36 Tease when the Lovely Ladies came back, right? Some Devil, 27 Minarets. And then finally in 2000, I think it's 2014. Yeah, June 11th, 2014 was my first number 41. So that's what, and this is just one thing you guys can see if you guys sign up. Again, any donation. But I just wanted to point that out that I've been talking about this forever, about all these songs I saw before my first 41, and now I can literally look at a list. So what I would advise you, I don't want to go through this. We're gonna have you back, but I don't want to go through too much more of this now. We're hitting an hour and a half, but I strongly recommend, and you probably know this, Henry. There is a learning curve to people actually doing things in this fan base. There are people that have been to shows since 2000, and they'll ask me, "Hey, how many 41s have been?" Like literally, they will ask me. And listen, subscribe to the channel. I'll tell you everything. But there are people that ask me, "Hey, when was the last time this?" Just like how you said, "Hey, look up on my site." There are people that you want to know certain things, and if you just take the step today to donate just a couple of dollars, okay? Henry didn't pull up to Deer Creek with a Maserati, okay? This is not going. This is strictly so they can keep this site running. But I would just say that is, please consider just a donation, and then you get access to this My Almanac portion, which will zoom in right there. You can look at your stats, your shows, your songs. And I know Hines was on here. Hines, you can also see like your openers. So just play around with it, but you'll be able to see your openers of like what songs you got for every opener. You've got every encore one. If you had the two sets, every second set of the two set opener, you can get all that. So I do want to just advise you guys of that. Henry, thank you so much for coming on. Any final thoughts? Any final things you want to say?
Yeah, just real quick about the My Almanac thing. It's literally any donation. You could donate 10 cents and you'll get a login. We also, it doesn't cost much to run the site. It's literally a computer, and I've seen it with my own two eyes. It's a computer sitting on the floor of a townhouse in Northern Virginia that runs the site. And our file server is another computer, like literally right next to it on the floor, like on the other side of the desk.
Okay.
Any additional money we have that takes to run the site, and it again, it's not much at all. We donate to DMB Trees, so we don't keep anything. It literally just covers cost. And before you make your first donation, or before you donate and go into it, just have some fun. Try to think about what you think the longest song performance you've ever seen is, or like the shortest version of anyone seen the bridge you've ever seen. Just like play those little thought games with yourself, because we have that data in there, obviously. And you're probably not right. No offense, but again, your emotions will get the best of you. But the song times don't lie. I am very accurate with those things. So yeah, man, I love the stream here. Love how I always learn something new about how people use the site every time I run into somebody who uses it, or I'm at a show and I see somebody on their phone using it, in your streams and stuff. It's really cool knowing that all these hours and days that you put into listening to your favorite band and listening to this music that you love, and on all this work and effort, people use it and generally think it's a pretty cool thing that you're doing. And that's, it's a good feeling, and we enjoy bringing it to people. We use it ourselves, and yeah, man. Yeah, appreciate y'all.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And this site, I mean, I can tell you, Connor is on here. He's in his early 20s. We have I know some of our DMB grandmothers. They call them they call themselves DMB mamas and grandmothers. They are grandparents, and they look up at the site too. So you have you have about at least 3 or 4 generations that use your site. So thank you so much, Henry. Enjoy your Labor Day weekend, and best of luck getting that vinyl floor up.
It's going to be amazing. Hell of a weekend coming up. Thanks for the time, man. I appreciate it. We should do this again soon.
Oh, absolutely. Appreciate it. Take care.
Yeah, man.
All right. So you want to thank Henry for being on the show. And I think that was a really awesome conversation. Listen, we could talk all night about this type of stuff, but we'll have him back on at some other point when I'm available and he's available. And again, appreciate Henry. We had met up at Deer Creek, and he said, "Hey, I'm gonna come on this side." I'm like, "Kitty, you want to come on my street?" But I think the other thing too is, and we'll try to get more into this for the future discussions. But we have people that are now Henry, like he said, he stepped away. He obviously was work, other stuff takes in, but we have almost a next generation of tapers. You guys have seen Zach come on, you've seen Mark come on, and it's really cool to see that you have people doing the taping now that just started 5 years ago, just started 2 years ago. And last year they taped every single show for the full band, plus some of the other events. So it's really cool to see things continue, and see even the ability. Henry knows Mark, and he knows some of the other newer tapers. He knows some of the older tapers, and some of the older tapers are giving things to the almanac. So it's great to see that camaraderie across different parts of the band's eras. I do want to share, because what we're going to be doing is, and the stream, we're still going to be on it for another 15-20 minutes, but I do want to give you guys a little bit of a preview, because what I want to do is, if you guys are at home this weekend, should I say, we're going to give you guys some clips from the Gorge that'll be coming on, and I want to play a little promo video here. Our two Stephs, SK Boyd Fire Dancer and two Steph 41 from Instagram, they're going to be sharing, and some of this stuff is on their Instagram, but we're going to be sharing some of their adventures from this week. So I want to just do this quick promo video. I'll come back on and we'll talk about a couple other things here. So this is something to look forward to for this weekend. Let's take a look here.
Diminishes the whole idea of God in the first place. Well, what if we were just a small, sweet old dream lying among them all? Pretend the blade of grass is just as tall.
So this week, there you go. It's your two steps. The two steps will be, I know I said it in my other promo video, but that's a little graphic and intro to what they'll be doing this weekend, Labor Day weekend. That is, this is night 0. We got night 1, night 2, and night 3. So stay tuned. We'll give you some clips and things from that. Speaking of, I know Henry mentioned the DMB trees. So I did put a poll up on Twitter, no, Instagram. So here we go. And listen, there's no wrong answer. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. I don't believe in echo chambers, and this is more of just something of food for thought. I don't want to knock the band, because if we look at our lives, we are hypocritical in different ways ourselves. But this was a question that I had, private jets while promoting reducing emissions on tour. So 57% of people said that's foul, it is hypocritical. 43% said it's fair, that, hey, they can have all these multiple jets. If you guys go to the Tahoe stream from Tuesday, there's a whole chapter on that, but I just wanted to bring out the results of that poll. As far as private jets promoting reducing emissions on tour. So thank you guys. We have a judgment there. It is foul. I will say this though, even, we can debate this all we want, but people aren't not going to shows because the band is taking private jets everywhere. And people are like, even if they, that's the thing, is we can debate all we want. Y'all still going to shows. And please, if this offends you, sell me your SPAC tickets next year. But I just thought it was something just to make just food for thought. They talk about zero emissions. I don't think they include the private jets. My thing has always been, and I've actually tried to check myself on this, because I remember it's easy to be morally high in certain issues, and then sometimes you even are hypocritical on that issue. But I think it's dangerous to be, not that you can't donate to, I think hey, let's try to plant some trees, but like, when you are over the top against something, and then all of a sudden something in your personal life is hypocritical of that, you got to be careful. Again, we saw it with the 19, and we saw governors and senators saying, hey, you got to stop X, Y, and Z. And regardless of what you think of that whole situation, it was hypocritical. They were shutting down restaurants, and then you had people shooting a movie next to it. You had all these celebrities on Martha's Vineyard or over here. So that's the thing I try to just point out. And I think, I believe sometimes we, like, people that are in high powers need to really just be more self-aware. There's a detachment from the average citizen, whether it's Bruce Springsteen and these extremely expensive tickets. You're talking about Born in the USA and blue collar stuff, and can't no one afford a ticket to your show. So I say, in a situation like that,
Bruh.
I say, hey, you need to listen, try to start off your touring in the summer in a stadium, Bruce. Don't just release a limited amount of tickets and then people got to wait. People have to wait until you announce a summer tour to really know that they have that hopes of seeing you. You haven't toured in decades. I do not have a private jet. I do not have. I wish I did. Hey, listen, if y'all want to donate a private jet,
Nope.
That's funny though. I know Justin's just kidding. What else? So EHE 2.0. Let's talk about that now. And again, maybe this is something we could talk about another time. I know we're running out on 2 hours, but I did Let's see, running the live tracks. Let's take a
From
look
the
at this
bedroom,
video.
I literally just rolled out towards my phone, put my headphones on, and listened to EHE 2.0 from Antonio Sanchez's project that just came out hours ago, Bad Hombre 2. And I listened to the first two tracks, but that EHE 2.0, family, it is 15 years to the date that the Roots came on stage at Alpine Valley and performed this song, and they had a little Black Thought, spit some ill bars before Dave began to, go to the regular portion of this. But I say all that to say that Antonio Sanchez, Pat Metheny, legend, and Dave Matthews, all of them are legends. All right, shout out to all of them. All three of them did a wonderful job on this track. I love how it was interpreted and brought to the studio. I love the various use of instruments, including the percussion and the beats and rhythm and how that was utilized in this. But I want y'all to listen for yourself. I ain't gonna give you no snippet, no preview. Bad Hombre 2, Antonio Sanchez. Look it up on Amazon Music, on Apple Music, like I just listened to it, Spotify. All right, go get it on iTunes if you want to cop the digital thing forever, online and offline. But I really dig this track. Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Thank you, Dave Matthews. Thank you, Pat Metheny. EHE 2.0. Listen to it now. And listen to the rest of this. I'm going to listen to this when I get after my run. I'm going to listen to the full record, right? Not just Dave Matthews. That's my boy, but we need to support the whole record. But awesome present. An awesome present a week before Dave Matthews and the crew hit the Gorge for Labor Day.
So I know people had mixed reactions on EHE 2.0. I think some of it is in one of my listen, if you don't like it, you don't like it. Um, I love it. Reminded me of Linkin Park did a remix album called Reanimation, and actually Mark, who the taper who was on here a bunch, he's a huge Linkin Park fan. Now Reanimation is not his favorite album, but he loves that kind of use of electronic effects in the studio. I thought EHE 2.0 is something that I literally just worked out to that song today. I think the music video is very solid as well. And I want to put that in because when you watch the music video, it brings more. I know people say that, but like this song, when you watch the music video, it brings more context to the direction of this song. The one thing I'll say, like I said, you can have your opinion. I think some fans are too caught up in, they're too married to the version with Dave and his guitar. I know I talk about Dave's guitar, but anyway, they're too caught up in the version that you hear live. The lyrics aren't fully utilized in this version, but that's okay. I like how they use the lyrics for the message and for the theme of the album and everything they're trying to convey in the music video. And I think it all comes together well. I will post in the description the link to the music video. And again, Bad Hombre 2.0, EHE 2.0. Oh no, Bad Hombre 2, EHE 2.0. I'll put the link, in the YouTube link in the description. But I just think that sometimes, in my opinion, some of the fan base is not open to other genres. There are many fans who love different genres of music, but like this is something where you may say, "Oh, it sounds too electronic. It sounds this and that." But if you actually just like, if you can understand the brilliance behind it, maybe it'll, if you give it some time, it'll grow. Maybe it won't. Listen, don't listen to it if you don't like it. But I think this is a track that I will see on my workouts. I will bump it in the crib, in the whip. I think it's a well done studio product, and it's supposed to have a flair that Antonio Sanchez does for everything on this album, Bad Hombre 2, which I think is a great project for what he does. So I think again, some of this fan base can be at times closed to certain genres. And there were a lot of people who like the type of music I like with that Linkin Park, and they like that electronic. My friend who produces his own music, he gravitated towards it because he understands what it takes to produce something like this, even with all the computers and technology, to be able to capture what they did for EHE 2.0 is something that takes brilliance and takes a great mind, a musical mind. somebody, Antonio Sanchez, who's been known to do great things in the jazz world, but even in this project, it's studio based. Um, so Henry is in the chat. He says, "My show of the summer, I listen to Virginia Beach and Bristol the most. Jacksonville shows are great. I'm partial to the tapes. I got the best sound. Not gonna." So he's he's saying, the ones he taped. He's saying those are his best. Those are the best ones. Is the ones that he. He's saying his stuff is the best. He's the best taper. He's the hottest taper in the game. Okay.
Cheer. Holla, holla.
So, what is the name? Rab Stevenson. By the way, listen, speaking of Rab, he is doing big things. This dude is really getting a name in the industry. Justin Timberlake, Chris Stapleton, Lizzo uses him, right? Brandy Carlisle, Dave Matthews. He has a lot of artists right now in different ways are doing big things. From Justin Timberlake, who doesn't tour as much as he used to, but he's a icon in certain ways. Like if he does a tour tomorrow, he's gonna sell out arenas. Lizzo is on the rise in her own little lane, right? Lizzo is pop culture royalty right now in the pop world. Chris Stapleton is the best country music performer you are going to see in 2022. I know Garth Brooks has a legacy of sellouts and just being a workhorse, but Chris Stapleton is the best country music act you are going to see. There is no other person that can write a song like him that has a stage as big as Chris Stapleton has, selling out amphitheaters, right? There is no other country music act right now that has the combination with the songwriting to be able to play a really good electric guitar, that has a wife that sings melodies and harmonies with them, who can sing. And I saw Chris Stapleton a couple of times, including last year, his first post-pandemic show. So Rab is really tapping into a bunch of different things. Brandy Carlisle, is she going to be the hot? She's not on the level of Lizzo as far as worldwide popularity, but Brandy Carlisle has a lane. She is an inspiration in the country music world as well, and has won awards for her own lane as a female country act. So he has one of the best I think the best male performer, and arguably the best female, or one of the best female performers in Brandy Carlisle. So Rab Stevenson is doing big things. And he is, in my opinion, he's helped Dave. Keep in mind, he's coaching Dave at the end of his, really in his 50s, right? So he's coaching a Dave Matthews who's literally at one of the hardest parts of his vocal career. When artists start to get in their 40s and 50s, it is a challenge. And he's been trying to help Dave the natural way. Dave took a lot of steroid shots and different, not like the baseball steroids, but he took different steroids to get his voice right. And some of that stuff, it helps in the short term, but long term it can do damage, and it's not the healthiest thing to do. So Dave has had a lot that's happened. He's performed more than most people in the world. There's few performers that have done what Dave has done. Even when you look at bands like Fish, who mix the set list up, they had hiatuses. You could think of Jerry Garcia, but even Jerry passed, before, like, Dave has made it to his 50s, and just continued to play nonstop. So I think we got to give some credit to Mr. Stevenson for what he's doing in music. I mean, he's really, really touched a lot of talented acts here. Let's see some other housekeeping here. So this was another cool thing. Buddy Strong, Israel Houghton, and Dave Matthews. For those of you guys who don't know, Israel Houghton is a very, 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 very popular gospel singer. And Buddy performed with he played in various ways with him. He's played with Usher, Ariana Grande, but before he got to Dave Matthews, these other artists gave him time in the studio and on the live stage. And he was very blessed. Let's look at the caption here. He says, moment of gratitude. I'm very grateful and blessed to have worked with 4 major artists who have shaped and elevated my musical career. Working with these 2 have been nothing short of amazing. I appreciate you, David Israel. That's Israel Houghton. Israel New Breed is his kind of brand or group. And so they have this picture. It looks like this is at the Gorge or somewhere in Washington. It looks like it could be the Gorge, but they're somewhere in Washington. Okay. And so this is special because, listen, I grew up listening to Israel, and I made a comment on Facebook. I think I put it here too. I've literally gone to 2 Dave Matthews Band shows, Mansfield, Hartford, Mansfield, back in 2014, Hartford Night 1, Hartford Night 2, 2013, Hartford Night 1, Hartford Night 2, and then gone to church the next day and strapped up on a guitar and played some of Israel New Breed music. So I've gone from DMB to gospel, and I think one of the reasons I've always said this, I connect with Buddy Strong so much, is because I grew up in the gospel Black church, and there's a special culture and a special experience when you grow up in the church, like I did, like Buddy did. His late father, was a pastor. My grandfather is still here. My grandparents just celebrated 66 years of marriage. Shout out to them. That was last week. Shout out to Grandma and Grandpa. But my grandfather was a pastor of the church I was born into, and he retired. He did some interim and consultant work as a pastor for helping other churches, and he's fully retired at 87 years old. So shout out to Grandpa O. And so my grandparents were in the I've been raised in the church. I go to church every Sunday for the most part, outside of some of the trips. But I think that's my connection to Buddy. That's why I love Buddy so much, is because I can relate to the type of music that he came from. And when you grow up in the church, people talk about Dave playing stuff on the cusp. When you grow up in the Black gospel church, maybe the white gospel church has to, I don't know. But in the Black church specifically, if there is a song on somebody's heart, on the pastor's heart, you have to know how to play it. And they're not even going to tell you. They may have a priest. We do actually have set lists in the gospel church. They'll say, all right, we're doing these 2 songs plus this. But you'll have the pastor will say, hey, no, I'm feeling them. He's preaching about something, and someone comes up and says they need help, or they're sick, or they got cancer. And as we're praying for that person with this struggle, the pastor will be like, play this song in B flat. And you got to know how to play it like that. So when we look at Buddy last year, we look at what he did last year. When you grow up in the Black church like I did and like Buddy did, you understand whether it's a musician. For me, I'm a public speaker in the church. I've been called up in front of the church and they say, hey, we need you to pray for everyone. Right? I've gone up and they say, hey, we want you to teach this Sunday school class. And I don't even have a plan. I just go up there and I just speak from my heart and from me being a Christian and knowing the word of God. And I just go and I just freestyle it, right? And I enjoy doing that. I love mentoring the youth at my church. But I say all that to say, when you grow up in the church, it teaches you to think on your toes. It pushes you. And a lot of the things I've learned in the church, especially, like I said, in the Baptist church, Black Baptist church, has helped me into even doing this stream right now. If I wasn't raised in the church as a pastor's grandson, having to speak in front of a congregation, my grandpa's called on me. One time I was with my grandpa. We was at a church. He was intern pastor, and the last pastor had done fraud. Like, he stole money from the church and had these scams. And my grandfather came in and was the pastor and helped him find a new pastor. And I'm like probably 16, 17 years old. And my grandfather had me speak to the youth off the cuff. I had to speak off the cuff about something and I just did it. That's so I say that Buddy Strong. I'm just trying to give you perspective of what Buddy Strong came from. It is a special type of dynamic when you grow up in a church like Buddy did or a church like I did. And many of you guys may have had this through your religious beliefs or followings and teaching. You learn certain life skills and through your community of faith. And I think it's dope because, again, he went from Israel New Breed. Buddy Strong was literally going to different gospel conventions, playing the bass, playing the drums, playing the keyboard, and trying to showcase what he did. There's some people I grew up with here in the Hartford area that are are national recording artists. I went to school. I went to the same daycare as Kimberly Joy. She was on The Voice and had 1 million views on all these videos. Like, right. Kurt Carr was my minister of music. He was a huge legend in gospel music. J.J. Hairston was my minister of music, which he was in charge of the music. So there's something special. And you think about even the music. I'll end it on this because we need to end this show. But I'm going on a tangent. But a lot of American music was formed in the Black gospel church. If you look at the roots, the Rolling Stones were listening to Black artists who came from the church singing the blues. That's who the Beatles was. All those artists were listening to people that literally grew up singing Negro, what they call Negro spirituals. So where Buddy come from, the excellence you see in Buddy, that stuff goes back into the 19th and 20th century in America, in the churches that form the churches that I currently go to and Buddy goes to. Churches spawned off churches spawned. So I said that to say that this all comes full circle, that American music, a lot of American music was founded in the church. Most of those Motown singers grew up and learned how to sing in the church. So I love Buddy Strong. I connect with Buddy. I really wish, and listen, I would love to talk to Dave. Listen, if you say Dave, I want to talk to Dave too. I want to talk to Carter, but there's something about Buddy Strong that to me, I just feel that genuine. Now again, he don't know me. I don't know. And listen, he's a world-class musician. I'm just a dude who plays stuff here, teaches in my church there. I kind of do everything, but I'm nowhere near the talent of Buddy Strong on guitar that he is on bass or everything else. He could probably play guitar better than me. He could just pick it up and learn it. But there's a special thing as far as coming from where he came from and where I came from. So tomorrow, which is Friday, September 2nd, 2022, DMB will be on Sirius XM radio. And then from there, I will be on after that. I project 10:45, but stay tuned. YouTube Conservative 34, hit the notification bell. You'll be notified when I go live. Twitter, I'll put the link up when I go live. I'm looking forward to this weekend. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have to sleep in or it's too late for you, just check it out when you wake up. YouTube Conservative 34, Instagram Conservative 34, and Twitter at Conservative 34. So thank you guys for joining me. Thank you to Henry for coming on. And hit the like button. Tell your friends. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I appreciate you guys are telling people about me. You guys are watching this stream. This has been a big year for the Conservative 34 brand, but it's because of people like you. And I hope to continue to grow discussions, to build things, and continue to give you guys perspective. And also, again, all opinions are welcome. I may have some clapbacks, but I am not part of an echo chamber. I want you guys to tell me how you feel. What do you like? How do you think? And I also want to share, hey, check out the DMBAlmanac. Look at this data right here. Now, you don't have to use the data as the end all be all, but some of the things that you see, some of the patterns can substitute for emotion. There's a whole debate right now, even in some of the YouTube sectors, as far as men's and women's relationships. And what it comes down to is you got to mix emotion with data and hard facts. And you have women, oh, but I feel like that. And men are just like, hey, listen, the data says this, the statistics say this. If you do this, if you run around in the streets and you're half naked on Instagram, you're probably not going to be a wife to somebody. And that's why you have all these beautiful Instagram. Let me stop talking. But that's really true. The data shows that if you are going to be up in here throwing thirst traps at 40 years old, you're not going to be married. You'll have plenty of men who want to hang out with you and hello, and they're going to be gone. And that's why I like to combine this. I do have my emotions, but I like to combine the emotions with the data. When you look at the set list, again, why I love the almanac. When you look at the almanac, you'll see, oh, the band repeats too many things. But then you go to this DMBAlmanac, and guess what you'll find? When you go to 3 Night Stands in 2000, you will find the band repeated a lot of songs. You look at night 2 of night 3 in Hartford. Oh, this song was played last night, Busted Stuff. This was played 2 nights ago. Then you go to night 3 and you're like, wait a minute. This is really the blueprint of this stream. I've mentioned this multiple times. This is night 3. Busted Stuff repeated 2 nights in a row. Rapunzel, PNP Rapunzel was played night 1 and night 3. JTR was played 2 nights in a row. The Stone was played night 1. Drive In, Drive Out night 1. Bartender night 1. Grace is night 1. Gray Street, right? You can go all across. Raven was played 2 of the 3 nights. But you may say you like these shows better, but you like them because you like the songs stand up. You like those songs better than the songs post stand up. That's really what it is. So I always like to have that balance of emotion with the data. You can't just run off emotion. Oh, I feel. Yes, you feel. You're entitled to that. But what is it really about? That's why I check out the almanac. You can see the data. You can see the statistics. But thank you guys for joining. I had a wonderful time. Everyone at the Gorge, I hope y'all are doing well. And let's see, we'll do some outro. Oh, let's take a look at let's see if I can find. What should I play? Close out with something here. Let's see. How are we gonna close this thing out? Let's go back to the Gorge last year. See if I have anything. All right, we're gonna do this. All right, we'll end on this. This is Old Dirt Hill. We're not gonna end on a cover. I was gonna do a cover. No, we ain't gonna end on no cover. We ain't gonna end on no cover. Cover. Gonna end on a cover? Nope. All right, we're gonna do this Old Dirt Hill. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 10:45 Eastern, 10:45 Pacific, and 1:45 a.m. Eastern.
Let's go.
So I'll see you guys late night on the East Coast, and the West Coast, y'all will be just getting out of the show. Have some guests on. Peace.
We'll see. Jury's out. Jury's out.
ground, you got to leave.